there, Buttercups. Your resident T-Bell here. Welcome to Hark, 'tis the T-Bill. Let's dive in for that tea today, huh? Before there were parades and green glitter, before there were leprechauns on cereal boxes, there was a land of firelight, fierce warriors, poetry, rebellion, and magic. Buttercups, this week we're stepping into the emerald mist of Ireland, a place where myth and history don't just sit side by side, they hold hands. Grab your tea or something stronger because we're about to get into it. Have you ever wondered why they call it the Emerald Isle? Well, I can tell you today. The reason for this is that its mild climate and constant rainfall allow it to stay vibrantly green year round. Now, fun fact, there are over 30,000 castles and castle ruins scattered across this country, okay? And the population of Ireland is about 5 million people. But there are over 70 million people worldwide who can claim Irish ancestry. Now, the Irish diaspora is one of the largest in the world, largely due to the Great Famine, which happened between 1845 and 1852, when over 1 million people died and another million emigrated. Now, before cathedrals, before castles, before St. Patrick ever set foot on Irish soil, Ireland belonged to the Celts. The Celts arrived around 500 BCE, bringing with them language, art, warrior culture, and a spiritual worldview that saw the earth as alive. And here's what makes Ireland so fascinating, even more than what we're going to find out. Unlike much of Europe, Ireland was never conquered by the Roman Empire. What does this mean? Celtic culture wasn't erased. It evolved. The Celtic year did not begin in January. It began in darkness. The ancient Celtic festival of Samhain marked the thinning of the veil between the worlds. Samhain was actually occurring October 31st to November 1st, and it marked the end of harvest and the start of winter, the season associated with death and stillness. During this season, bonfires were lit, costumes were worn, spirits were believed to walk among the living. This festival is widely recognized as the ancestor of ... modern Halloween. That did sound familiar, didn't it, Buttercups? But to the Celts, it wasn't spooky fun. It was sacred balance. Life and death weren't opposites. They were partners. Samhain is widely considered a precursor to Halloween. And isn't that cool? Because if you notice, a lot of our holidays are a mixture of what pagans used to celebrate and the incoming of Christianity, right? So they just merged together. Traditional Irish music. It isn't just entertainment, it's survival. The fiddles, the tin whistles, the bowron drums, the uilleann pipes. Y'all, pub sessions aren't performances, they're participation. Words matter deeply in Irish culture, so much so that Ireland has at least 4 Nobel Prize winners in literature. Who are they? They are William Butler Yeats, Samuel Beckett, George Bernard Shaw, and Seamus Heaney. When we talk about Ireland, we have to talk not only about its beauty, but its endurance. Because Ireland's story is not just one of myth and music, it's one of survival. Ireland's history is marked by colonization, rebellion, famine, and division. For hundreds of years, Ireland was under English, later British, rule. Now, beginning in the 12th century, control tightened through land compensations, plantations, and laws that stripped Irish Catholics of rights. Some of the penal laws of the 17th and 18th century restricted ownership, they banned Catholics from holding office, they limited education, and suppressed Irish language. Yet, the culture didn't disappear. It simply went underground. It survived in whispers, in song, in secret hedge schools, in stories passed beside peat fires. Resilience doesn't always have to be explosive. It can sometimes look quiet. Which leads us to the Great Famine, which is one of the darkest chapters. A potato blight devastated Ireland's main food crop. But this was more than just a natural disaster, y'all. It unfolded under British governance that failed to adequately intervene. Over 1 million people died. Another million emigrated. Ships leaving Ireland during this time were often called coffin ships. Unfortunately, this meant families were separated forever, villages emptied, the population dropped by nearly 25%. And yet, the Irish survived. They endured. They rebuilt lives in America, Canada, Australia, and Britain. Today, there are more people of Irish descent outside of Ireland than in it. That diaspora carries memory like an heirloom. Now, we said that the Irish, good Lord, the Irish were they survived. They were enduring, right? Well, Ireland, the country, did not quietly accept its fate, okay? In 1916, during World War I, Irish Republicans launched the Easter Rising in Dublin. The rebellion was ultimately suppressed, and many leaders were executed, but something shifted. Public opinion turned, momentum grew. And by 1922, most of Ireland became the Irish Free State. There were figures like Michael Collins and Eamon de Valera, who became central to the fight for the independence of Ireland. Freedom wasn't handed over, it was fought for. In 1922, most of Ireland gained independence from Britain, becoming the Irish Free State. Northern Ireland remained part of the United Kingdom. Alas, the story did not end there. The 20th century saw a conflict known as the Troubles, particularly in Northern Ireland, the part that stayed a part of the United Kingdom, right? This led to decades of violent conflict between unionists and nationalists, like bombings, military pressure, presence, civil unrest, if you will. Over 3,500 people were killed during this period known as the Troubles, and yet, in 1998, the Good Friday Agreement brought a fragile but powerful peace. Former enemies sat at the same table. That might be one of the fiercest forms of resilience, if you will, choosing peace after generations of pain. Now, throughout all of this, Ireland refused to lose itself. The Irish language, Gaelic, is still spoken and taught. Traditional music has never died. Poetry has flourished. Storytelling has remained sacred. Even the harp, Ireland's national symbol, became a quiet emblem of identity and resilience. Okay? This wasn't only political. It was cultural, it was spiritual, it was emotional. Okay? Yet today, Ireland stands as one of Europe's most vibrant and culturally rich nations. Today, Ireland is a tech powerhouse, a literary giant, a cultural exporter, a nation deeply connected to its past. But underneath the modern skyline is something older, a people who endured colonization, starvation, division, and exile. And yet they still chose to sing. They still chose to write. They still chose to hope. Resilience isn't loud. Sometimes it sounds like a fiddle in a dimly lit pub. Sometimes it looks like a grandmother teaching her grandchild an old Irish phrase. Sometimes it's boarding a ship with nothing but faith. Ireland's story reminds us luck may be charming, but resilience is powerful. Now, Buttercup, so you didn't think you were going to get out of this episode without some fun facts, did you? Well, good, because you're not. Here we go. The harp is Ireland's national symbol and the only country with a musical instrument as its national emblem. Now, the harp dates back to medieval Gaelic Ireland and appears on Irish coins, passports, and even government documents. The fun twist? The Guinness logo uses a harp too, but it's facing the opposite direction of the official Irish harp. Okay. We talked about how there were over 30,000 castles and ruins, right? Some of the most famous include Blarney Castle, yes, the Kissing Stone, Dublin Castle, Ashford Castle, now a luxury hotel, which I would visit because you know what? We're gonna learn that there may not be snakes in Ireland, and I'm good with that. And you're basically never far from a ghost story, which I love ghost stories, so maybe it's a thing I should do. The cliffs of Moher get 1.5 million visitors a year. The breathtaking cliffs of Moher rise over 700 feet above the Atlantic Ocean. And they've appeared in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, The Princess Bride, among some movies, and there's always drama, of course. Now, remember how we talked about Samhain and how it was the precursor to Halloween? Well, Halloween costumes originated in Ireland because that festival marked the end of the harvest and the thinning between the two worlds. Well, this is how Halloween evolved, okay? So, yeah, Ireland invented spooky season, which a lot of people love. Now, I'm going to take you back to the Titanic because it was built in Belfast. The RMS Titanic was constructed in the Harland and Wolff shipyard in Belfast. Today, the Titanic Belfast Museum stands where it was built. And I'm going to go ahead and age myself. I remember when the Titanic, the movie, was on 2 VHS tapes. And fun fact about your favorite host and, T-Bell. When I was a kid and we were watching it, I got to the end of the second tape, realized something bad was going to happen, and turned it off. Alas, I didn't let me or my brother watch it. Just saying. Ireland has no native snakes. This is something that would make me want to visit. Ireland separated from mainland Europe after the Ice Age. Snakes never made it across. So when St. Patrick quote unquote drove the snakes out, it was probably more symbolic, likely referencing pagan practices. Sorry to ruin the reptile parade, y'all. Now, Irish, Gaelic, is one of the oldest living languages in Europe. It dates back over 2,000 years. You'll see road signs in both English and Irish throughout the Republic of Ireland. Okay. And it is still taught in schools. Ireland has won 4 Nobel Prizes in literature. Right? We talked about William Butler Yeats, Samuel Beckett, George Bernard Shaw, and Seamus Heaney. It means that poetry is practically a sport there, okay? And if you like Golden Girls, I think Dorothy would have done well. She probably would have gotten a Nobel Prize too. Anyways, the shamrock isn't the official national symbol. Now, we know that the harp is a national emblem, right? But even though it's deeply associated with Ireland, the shamrock, and it's deeply associated with St. Patrick, it's more of a cultural emblem than a formal national symbol. It's still iconic, it's still powerful, and it's still on every March t-shirt ever going to be made, okay? Alright, sheep. If y'all watched any part of Bridgerton, you'll recall that Eloise went to Ireland with I believe it was Ireland, with Francesca and Michael, John. Okay. Well, she made the comment that we're more sheep than people. Well, in the rural countries, especially, sheep vastly outnumber humans in Ireland. Rolling green hills dotted with white wool, peak Ireland aesthetic. Okay. Now, remember, we said that though Ireland has a 5 million person population, 70 million people can claim Irish heritage, correct? Well, that's because of the Great Famine, because all the emigration, especially to America. Now, this is why St. Patrick's Day is celebrated everywhere, especially big celebrations in places like Boston and Chicago and New York City. Sometimes the loudest Irish pride is outside of Ireland. Okay. Now, maybe one day we'll talk about the pyramids. I might get on that into that rabbit hole. But Newgrange is older than the pyramids. Okay. This prehistoric monument was built around 3200 BC, and that makes it older than Stonehenge and the Egyptian pyramids. And on the winter solstice, sunlight perfectly illuminates its inner chamber. Ancient engineering magic. Okay. Guinness isn't Ireland's most popular beer. Shockingly, lager brands often outsell Guinness domestically. But globally, woohoo, Guinness remains the iconic Irish drink. And yes, it tastes better in Dublin, according to many devotees. All right, we've talked about how Ireland has its roots very strongly connected to like poetry and music and such, right? Well, it also has strong theater traditions, okay? So there's the famous Abbey Theatre founded in 1904, and it helped launch Ireland's literary renaissance. Drama, rebellion, art, they all intertwine. Now, we think green, when we think Irish, when we think St. Patrick's Day, we think green. Green wasn't always Ireland's color. Early depictions of Ireland associated it with blue. Even St. Patrick's robes were often blue in artwork. Green became prominent during the Irish independence movement. Rebellion rebranded the island. It's kind of like if you look at Taylor Swift and she has the first version of her songs and then she has Taylor's version. It's like blue versus green, okay? Just saying. Today we have learned that Ireland is more than just green beer and parade beats. It is firelight in ancient stone circles, songs sung through tears, rebellion wrapped in poetry, magic whispered on the wind. As we head into St. Patrick's Day, maybe we just celebrate not just luck, I guess, but resilience. Not just shamrocks, but stories. Buttercups, I thank you very much for wandering through the emerald mist with me today. May your week be brave, your stories bold, and your tea piping hot and strong. Now, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, anything that any topics, you can reach me on Spotify, YouTube, Facebook. You can email me at harktisthetbill@gmail.com. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and may the road rise up to meet you.